authors. Welcome to Author Nation. I'm Melody Owen. This is your go-to place for everything you need to become a successful nonfiction author, from planning to promotion and everything in between. And today I'm very excited to be introducing to you Sandra Nomoto. Now, let me tell you a little bit about her. She is the content doctor. I love that, the content doctor.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. She's a writer, content writer and editor for cruelty-free businesses. She's a copy editor, ghostwriter, and book formatter for authors. After earning her university degree, she worked in public relations for 13 years. She launched Conscious Public Relations Inc. at the age of 25. Over 10 years in business, Nomoto was awarded the 2009 Volunteer of the Year Award for Women in Film and Television Vancouver. She earned B Corp certification, which is, if you don't know what it is, look it up. It's awesome. She contributed to E-Woman Network here in Vancouver. She earned the Best Social Media and Community Engagement Award. She's a founding member of the Vancouver Short Film Festival, which she helped grow from 2005 to 2015. And Sandra is here today because she authored the only public relations guide you'll ever need in 2019. And she writes on the vegan lifestyle at sandranomoto.com and for Cold Tea Collective. And she serves on the board of the Vancouver Mural Festival, which is an awesome festival. If you ever get to visit Vancouver and you're here during that festival, I highly recommend it. Welcome, Sandra.
Thanks so much for that lovely intro, Melody. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be here with you. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. You've done, like, you've had couple of careers, right? In public relations and now working with authors. How did that all come to be?
I would say most of my career has been in communications. So the first job that I was able to get right out of school when I graduated in 2005 was at a public relations firm. And that's not what I graduated in. It just seemed like a great place to start. I got my degree in English literature. Mm-hmm. And what was exciting about this particular company, they're not around anymore, but they had a lot of clients in the film industry, which I was also interested in. So even though I didn't study public relations, I learned most of what I learned about public relations in that role. Went from intern to assistant to the partners in about a year and a half, and left that job because I knew very quickly that I didn't want to be an event planner. And that was a lot of the work that we did. So we put on events for clients, and then we invited the media to the parties. So what was really fascinating to me about public relations was that media aspect of it. So after leaving that role, I took a couple courses on marketing, public relations, media relations, and just got more of an education in that sector. And then I started my own business. So inspired by my sister, who was also running her own small business, I just struck out on my own as an independent publicist in 2008. And then that morphed into more of an online agency type of company. So I incorporated, as you mentioned in my bio, I certified as a B Corp, which was really important to me because I learned that around 2011 that I really wanted to run a business that reflected my own personal values, which was moving more towards eco living. I was aiming to be a vegetarian at the time, and for a number of reasons, I closed my company in 2018 and did some soul searching in 2019. I didn't think I wanted to stay in marketing. But I'm a big meditator, and I got this big download at the end of 2019, and it sort of said, you're going to be a writer your whole life, and you're coming up on a couple years as a vegan. So, and this industry is now sort of rising. So pairing that together, I came up with the concept of the content doctor. So I, essentially help companies that are cruelty-free with their written content. And then because I had some time during the pandemic in 2020, I moved into book editing and formatting. And so took some courses there. And I don't have too much experience there, but the goal there is to help vegan or spiritual authors with memoirs. So that's sort of the span of my career.
No, that's really awesome. And so did you create the workbook kind of at the end of your PR career?
Yes. So I wrote it about a year before I closed the company, and not knowing that I was going to close it. So around the end of 2016, I knew that media relations, at least in Canada, was changing quite a bit. Digital marketing was taking over. A lot of folks were choosing to go the social media route rather than, pay to have someone like me contact the media, send a release or a pitch, and hope for the best in terms of print media or broadcast media. And a lot of that is still happening today, very big in the US, very much. But I noticed in Canada, just that was starting to decline. And that was our bread and butter at the agency. We did do social media as well. So initially I was imagining going full service communication. So I talked with a lot of other service providers that did services that we didn't. So graphic, web design, photography, videography, like you name it, anything marketing related. I wanted to form this sort of big conscious agency, and was working toward a rebrand at that time. And that's when I wrote the book, because the goal for the book was to market the new agency when we launched in early 2018. And then for various reasons, it just didn't pan out. And that's why I decided to close.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Let's talk about the workbook a little bit. So it's called The Only Public Relations Guide You'll Ever Need. I love the name. It is a comprehensive self-guided workbook on how to incorporate good public relations into your business, whether you're pre-startup or have been running a corporation for decades. And it's a map that blends new communication methods with responsible and earnest counsel. And it's sourced from PR and business experts alike. That's amazing. PR is such a huge domain. So tell me a little bit more specifically what the workbook is about.
Yeah, I wanted it to be a very practical guide. So there are lots of other great PR books out there, and a lot of them focus on theory, which is great and important, in my opinion. But if you're working at a company and you read this great book and you're like, great, now how do I implement that? It's usually like this little section at the end where it's like, here's how to actually do it. And to me, I'm all about just putting theory into practice. And so I basically take that little chunk that most PR books talk about, and that is the bulk of the workbook. So yes, I go through concepts and ideas, but the aim of the workbook is so that you, whether, like I said, you're a startup, you're starting a new company, or you've been running a corporation for decades, you can pick it up and say, yes, we're doing these things. No, we're not doing these. So maybe we can jump on these. Or you can, just plan your whole PR plan from scratch. And there's a lot of blank space in it intentionally for that.
That's amazing. So thinking about that, then what is the promise? So I pick up this book, and by the time I'm finished the workbook, I will have a full PR plan. You'll have either or both an idea of where to start to create your plan, because some of this stuff could take years if you're not a fully fledged business, or if you've already been running, you'll pick up tips on things that you may not have thought about before that you can start implementing, as well as maybe some tips on how to improve some of your existing public relations practices. Right. That sounds great. So PR is this, as I said, this huge, vast arena. How did you figure out, what was the most important pieces to include and what maybe you didn't need to include?
Yeah. So what most folks came to us for when, they were looking for a publicist or a PR company is, I want to get into the media. And that's exactly what we would deliver for them in, a matter of months. This book is 2 years old now, and that impression still sticks around today, that all PR is what the traditional media, or even influencer media, if we want to go there, is saying about you. And that's absolutely not true. PR goes way before. It's about internally what your employees are thinking about you, because the media and what your team thinks about you could be very different. and you also want to think about internal PR. And that's why I structured the book into two parts, because a lot of people think it's all about that external communication and what is the perception of the public of my company. But you really also have to get that internal piece right, because if you have an employee that isn't happy and is blabbing about you on social media, that's almost just as bad, or maybe even worse than a newspaper saying something. So that's why the first half of the book is on internal public relations and really getting that piece right.
Yeah, good point. Good advice. Thank you. That's excellent. I would love to turn and just talk a little bit about putting a workbook together. I know that some of the people who watch are entrepreneurs and they want to create books or workbooks for their business, things that fit into their business. So I'd love to just talk a little bit about that. And my first question would be, what were the steps you took to create this workbook?
You know what? I didn't even know I was creating a workbook when I wrote it, because like I said, I'm a writer, right? It doesn't take me very long to put together first drafts. So the first draft of this book took me 2 hours. I think I wrote it in the course of an afternoon. And then of course, as you know, editing comes after that, and you rewrite the whole thing 30 times. But I think when I wrote it, I realized, wow, there's a lot of blank space here, where depending on the type of company you are, that's where your piece would be inserted. And it's like I said, it's very practical, instructional, not a lot of theory. And so I think just looking at the draft and seeing it's only 80 pages or so, 80, 90 pages. And there could be a lot of blank space here for folks to fill in their own notes. I kind of inadvertently it happened to be in the format. It evolved into the form of a workbook.
Okay. So probably if I'm an entrepreneur and I'm watching this, what I might take from that is sit down and just map out what people need to do, what clients need to do to go from A to B to C to D. In your industry, just lay that out, just map it out. And then once you have that mapped out, you can start asking the right questions and leaving blanks for people to answer. So first, just sit down and go, this is the process from start to finish for someone to work through my industry, whether it's coaching or public relations or whatever it is you happen to be teaching. And then once that's done, then start making it a workbook.
Yeah, I'd say that, that's the way I like to write too, sort of in this chronological order. And then in the editing process, you can always say, what would be great here is a case study and a little anecdote from me here. And so you start humanizing it. So it's not just, like a textbook or a manual. You insert those things in. But I think a great way to do the first draft is, mapping out all of the steps of how to create whatever it is, the product or service that you have. Yeah,
you make a good point, because a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs who aren't like authors, people who write, book after book after book, they understand the process. Entrepreneurs, on the other hand, sometimes they think they should sit down, write this brilliant thing immediately, and then have it all ready and send it out. It's actually not the case, right? It's like, write out the skeleton, start filling it in, start figuring out, do we need a story, an antidote, a case study? Do we need a form? Do we need, just thinking about, do I need a visual, a graph, a pie chart? And start filling that in that way, rather than feeling you need to put everything down perfect all at once.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you had writing background and you had the PR background. What was your greatest challenge in putting this together?
I think I can talk about after the book was published, I realized there were a lot of things I didn't get right. So the short answer is I didn't really have any challenges. And then once so people know I self-published on Amazon, and there's pros and cons. Like they give you the steps, they don't let you move forward until your book is in the right format and things like that. That being said, they don't tell you things like, here's how to do a copyright page. So I don't have a copyright page in my workbook, even though like I own the copyright for it, but it's just not there. Same thing with a spine. So I didn't know that your book has to be at least 100 pages before you have a spine, and mine doesn't because it's a short book. So things like that it wasn't until after the book came out that I was like, oh, there are a couple of gaps that I missed here that probably, hiring a good book coach or an agency probably would have told me, but, because I went the self-published route and it seemed easy enough on Amazon, I just sort of followed their formula, but that will only get you so far. So it was things like that I noticed, there's really an advantage to working with somebody else when you're self-publishing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Self-publishing doesn't mean doing everything by yourself. Self-publishing means maintaining control of things and knowing what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and finding support for those areas that you are not strong in or don't have that knowledge base. Yeah, that's a really good point. So how does your workbook fit into your current life?
It's just a product that I sell at this point. It doesn't market my current services, but what was interesting is the initial idea was to brand it the same, colors, fonts, things like that as the new agency was going to look like, but because I closed my company, I really thought to myself in 2018, do I still want to put this book out? I put in the effort to write it. It does require some updates because things are rapidly changing every year in terms of tools and in digital marketing. It would require some updates, but then again, I've always wanted to be an author, and this is just another way that I can get my name out there and market myself. So what I did was I had the designer who did my personal website. She actually designed the entire book for me, and so it's very much even though it's talking about a service I don't offer anymore, it's very much branded in terms of what my brand essence is now on the internet. So I really enjoyed that process, and I get a lot of compliments on how colorful and bright and interesting the book is, and I like that it's different than anything else that's out there, and it's something I can sell online.
Yeah, I love it. I feel like this is a gift, right? This is, here I am. I've spent so many years in public relations. I've learned a great deal, and I've put this workbook together. And even though it may not be something that I'm fitting into my new life, it still is something beautiful and useful and that other people can gain from. So I'm going to put it out in the world anyway. And I feel like that's a gift. I think a lot of times authors, they give gifts to the world in that sense. So I think that's really neat.
So thank you for reflecting that back. I do think it's a gift because if I didn't feel like, all the other PR books out there, were doing it perfectly, I wouldn't have done this. And I think, like I said, it's a very easy guide. It's called The Only Public Relations Guide You'll Ever Need because it really takes all of just like the theory and what stuff some people might call boring out of it, and it's super practical. And 2 years later, I can say it's still absolutely useful. There's a lot of mistakes companies are making now in terms of how they show up online, and if they pick up this book, they might have avoided that. So I hope they find it.
Great point. We'll get it out there. So because I know you don't do PR anymore, but you know a lot about PR, and we're going to be talking to authors here. I'm wondering is there like a tip that you would share with authors that we might find in your workbook? Is there something like a takeaway for authors and public relations? Because authors are always asking about public relations.
That's not the quote that I was going to read, but that's a great question because, I intentionally did not, want to do like a whole virtual tour for this book because I didn't want to be marketing services I no longer offer. But for most authors, if you can spend the time to appear on podcasts and get the book and your expertise. It's really all that expertise in your head that you want to share. even while you're writing the book and while you're getting it formatted and published, start that marketing process already. So what are the news angles around your book, and who might you want to reach out to? What are the podcasts who might want to have you on as a guest? Your local newspapers and TV shows, and even influencers if you've got that kind of a budget. Start those gears rolling and think about how you can get the book out there, because you want to share that with the world, right? And the only way to do that is to talk about it. So you can start that PR process even before your book is out.
No, really, really good advice. I think that a lot of times authors are so focused on writing the book that they don't put their heads up to see what's going on in the world. And if they do, they can find that along the way in writing, they can share bits that they're writing, they can respond to things in the news, they can, help answer questions, all of that tying into the book they're writing. So when the book does come out, people are like, oh, you're the person who's been giving us the advice and helping out and sharing the news. And now you have a book about it. And that can be really helpful.
Yeah, a lot of entrepreneurs write books because it's an easy way for people to get access to their knowledge, right? You can't hire that company yet for X thousands of dollars, but you can pick up their book, gain some useful tips that you can use in the meantime, and then when you're ready for it, you can hire that company. So it's like I said, it's a marketing tool and a way to share a bit of what you know with your audience. Even if they can't work with you right away.
Exactly. So, Sandra, where do we get the book? Just in case there are authors out there who are like, yes, I need this PR book. And then we have entrepreneurs and small business owners watching this as well. Where do we get your book?
It's on Amazon. And if you want to order directly from me for signed copies and things like that, and the digital book is only available on my site. So that's up at sandranomoto.com.
Okay. Perfect. I will put all of those in the description. So if people are interested, they can just head to the description and you'll find all the links in there. And so I know that you are doing something a little different now, and I'm really curious about that. So I'm wondering if you'd give us, your 30-second pitch on how you are supporting authors these days.
Yeah, so I can support authors in a number of ways. Number one, ghostwriting. So if you are not the type of person who sits down at a computer and types, but you've got a great story within you, we can set up a number of recorded calls, and that will basically form itself into your manuscript. If you've already got a manuscript in hand and you need an editor, I can help you with that. So copy editing and proofreading. So making sure typos are out of there, your facts are checked, your references are good. And if you've got that process all done, but you're self-publishing and you need the book formatted for both the print interior and the ebook, I can do that for you too.
Perfect. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. And I will put all of Sandra's links again in the description. So if you want any author services from her, they will be there as well. Can you just very briefly tell us where we can find you? I will make sure to get that in the description.
Yeah, two ways. They all lead to the same place, sandranomoto.com or thecontentdoctor.co.
Oh, excellent. Okay, perfect. Sandra, is there anything we've missed today? Is there a question I didn't ask or anything that you wanted to chat about that we didn't cover?
I just wanted to mention the type of authors that I would like to work with, because what I'm doing now is I'm going back to all of the best-selling spiritual books, because I'm big into spirituality, and kind of learning their formulas. And in the process, I'm learning that I would really love to work with regular people, because regular people have great stories. Nothing wrong with the academics out there, but sometimes they're too smart and the information is just it's not engaging for me. I want to be engaged emotionally. So I'd love to work with either spiritual people or vegans, because that's who I like to roll with these days, who know that they have a great story within them and want to turn that into a book. So that would look like a memoir or a nonfiction book of some sort. Those are the types of authors that I'd love to work with.
Perfect. So creative nonfiction, memoirs, if you are a plant-based eater, a vegan, a spiritual person who has a story to tell, get in touch with Sandra. I think that's brilliant. Thank you very much, Sandra. I really appreciate your time today. I really enjoyed speaking with you. You've done so much. I can't wait to see what you roll out next.
Thanks so much, Melody. You're so kind. And pleasure speaking with you.
Yes, thank you. And Author Nation, thank you for tuning in today. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. We want your questions. So if you have questions, drop them in the comments and I'll answer them, or I'll tag Sandra to answer them. And if you enjoyed this, please subscribe for more. Thanks. Have a great day.